The conquest of India wasn't a grand national project, it was a corporate takeover, orchestrated not by kings or parliaments, but by a private company with a single-minded pursuit of profit. In the heart of London, the East India Company began as a handful of ambitious traders, driven by dreams of wealth, not by visions of empire or conquest. No one at the time could have imagined that these merchants, with little more than ledgers and contracts, would one day command vast armies and rule over millions of people across a distant continent. Their power didn't arrive with the thunder of cannons, but quietly, disguised as commerce and trade, slipping in through the back door of opportunity. The company's rise is a warning to history. A business, when left unchecked and driven solely by profit, can morph into a colonial power, reshaping destinies. It exploited political vacuums, deep internal divisions, and acts of betrayal. Tools often more effective than any sword or musket. The first company men were not soldiers, but employees with account books and contracts, seeking favor and trade from the mighty Mughal emperors who ruled India. For over a century, the company remained a minor player, a mere guest in a land of ancient wealth and sophisticated civilization, tolerated but never truly trusted. Its transformation from humble supplicant to sovereign ruler is one of history's most dramatic and unexpected reversals of fortune. Colonialism in India wasn't a nation conquering another, but a corporation privatizing an entire country, turning it into a source of endless revenue. Directors in London, many of whom never set foot in India, made decisions for millions. Businessmen playing kings, their choices echoing across continents with devastating consequences. The East India Company's story is the birth of global corporate power, a force that would not only reshape India but set the stage for the modern world, where corporations could rival nations in influence and ambition. Before the British arrived, India was a global powerhouse, producing a staggering quarter of the world's manufacturing output. Its cities thrived with innovation, and its influence stretched far beyond its borders. Indian textiles and spices were coveted worldwide, drawing merchants from distant lands. The Mughal court dazzled with immense wealth, intricate artistry, and a vibrant culture that left visitors in awe. Cities like Delhi and Agra were bustling centers of culture, learning, and commerce, far from the backwaters some later imagined. Their streets echoed with the sounds of trade, music, and lively debate. The subcontinent's wealth flowed from both thriving trade routes and a rich agricultural base, supporting millions and fueling prosperity across the land. Indian artisans produced steel and textiles of such quality and beauty that they were unmatched in Europe, setting global standards for craftsmanship and innovation. Europeans came to India not as conquerors, but as eager buyers, offering only silver and gold in exchange for the subcontinent's treasures. The East India Company, chartered in 1600, was a latecomer to this thriving scene, facing fierce competition from established Portuguese and Dutch rivals. Early company voyages were perilous, fraught with storms and uncertainty. To gain even a small foothold, they had to negotiate patiently with powerful Indian rulers. Like Sir Thomas Roe's embassy in 1615 secured only a minor trade concession, a single factory, a modest beginning in a vast empire. To the Mughal emperor, this seemed insignificant, barely worth notice. Yet this tiny concession would become the seed of a future empire. The company's journey in India began not with conquest or force, but with a humble request to trade, planting the first roots of a story that would change history. The Mughal Empire, once unshakable, began to fracture after Aurangzeb's death in 1707. Costly wars and religious intolerance drained the treasury and fueled rebellion. Power struggles shattered central authority, and regional governors became independent rulers. India splintered into competing states: Bengal, Awadh, Hyderabad, each with its own ambitions. The Marathas rose, sacking Delhi and reducing the emperor to a pawn. This chaos, known as the anarchy, created a power vacuum ripe for exploitation. The East India Company, once a guest, saw opportunity in division. Officials like Robert Clive realized their disciplined armies could tip local conflicts. The company began selling military services, playing Indian states against each other. No longer just traders, they became kingmakers in a fractured land. The company's transformation began with a shift in strategy, not war, but political manipulation. Company officials meddled in local rivalries, offering military support for profit and commercial concessions. Their soldiers became a valuable asset, tipping the balance in regional disputes. Espionage, alliances, and bribery became their tools. Chaos was good for business. Indian rulers, desperate for advantage, turned to the company, falling into debt and dependency. The French were their main European rivals, backing their own candidates in proxy wars. Robert Clive, once a clerk, mastered this new form of corporate warfare. His boldness and cunning in the Carnatic Wars established the company's military reputation. Indian rulers saw the company's small, disciplined forces as formidable. Military superiority and political manipulation unlocked the riches of India. The company's turning point came in Bengal, the empire's richest and most prosperous province, famed for its wealth, fertile lands, and thriving trade. The Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dowlah, challenged the company's growing power by seizing Calcutta, determined to defend his sovereignty against foreign influence. Robert Clive was sent to retaliate, but instead of launching a direct assault, he orchestrated a web of conspiracy and intrigue behind the scenes. Clive bribed Mir Jafar, a key general in the Nawab's army, promising him the throne of Bengal in exchange for his betrayal and support. At Plassey in 1757, as the monsoon clouds gathered, much of the Nawab's army stood idle and watched as the battle began, paralyzed by doubt and secret deals. The Nawab, realizing the betrayal, fled the battlefield, and the company suffered minimal losses while swiftly seizing control of Bengal. The aftermath was a dramatic transfer of power and unimaginable wealth. Mir Jafar became a puppet ruler, and the company looted the royal treasury without resistance. Clive and his officers became fabulously rich overnight, their fortunes made from the spoils of Bengal's riches. The company gained the right to collect taxes, transforming itself from mere traders into the new rulers of Bengal, wielding unprecedented power. Plassey was not a traditional military victory, but a calculated corporate coup, executed with cunning and gold rather than sheer force. Loyalty was for sale, and the company had the money and ambition to buy it, reshaping destinies with every transaction. The betrayal at Plassey opened the floodgates for corporate conquest, setting a precedent for future manipulation and control. India's fate was now in the hands of businessmen, and the age of corporate rule had truly begun. After Plassey, the company became the de facto government of Bengal. Its priority: extract wealth as quickly as possible. The drain of wealth was systematic. Artisans were forced to sell at low prices, rivals eliminated. The 1765 Diwani grant gave the company the right to collect taxes in Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. Now Indian tax revenues bought Indian goods for export, a self-financing system of plunder. Trade and government fused. Company officials, paid little, grew rich through extortion and private trade. Their goal was profit, not public welfare. Ignorant of local customs, they raised taxes brutally, tearing apart Bengal's social fabric. Peasants unable to pay were punished or dispossessed. The result: economic devastation and social collapse. The wealth flowing to Britain created a new class of nabobs, sparking scandal and debate at home. For the first time, Britain questioned if a private company should rule millions. Company rule devastated India. Poverty soared, industries collapsed, and deindustrialization set in. Indian weavers, once world-renowned, couldn't compete with cheap British imports. Millions of artisans lost their livelihoods, forced into subsistence farming. The company's harsh tax policies ignored agricultural realities. During the 1770 Bengal famine, the company collected taxes even as millions starved. 10 million died, a man-made disaster born of greed and indifference. With Bengal's wealth, the company financed wars of expansion, crushing Mysore and the Marathas. Subsidiary alliances trapped Indian rulers in debt, leading to annexation. By the 1800s, the company controlled most of India, commanding a private army larger than Britain's. This empire was built on resentment, economic ruin, and humiliation. The pressure of suffering and anger was building. An explosion was inevitable. The East India Company's story is a lesson in the dangers of unchecked corporate power. Its conquest began with bargains, not battles. Contracts and debts paved the way for domination. The Great Rebellion of 1857, fueled by decades of grievances, ended company rule. The British Crown took over, but the foundations of the Raj were laid by corporate ambition. Today, multinational corporations wield power rivaling states. The company's history warns of the consequences when profit trumps accountability and human values. Governance, law, and consent are vital checks on concentrated power. The company's legacy is visible in India's infrastructure and in its scars. The most important lesson power, especially in commerce, in Kraubin, Sewer, Gentams, demands Gentaubinens constant vigilance. The story of a trading company conquering an empire is a stark reminder. Sovereignty is fragile, and liberty must be defended against the quiet encroachments of power.